Hiya! It's the next chapter of Mr. Stink. It's chapter 5, Abandoned Starbucks. Monday morning, the first proper day of the Christmas holidays. A day Chloe had been absolutely dreading. She didn't have any friends she could text or email or SMS or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. But there was one person that she wanted to see. By the time Chloe got to the bench, it was raining heavily, and she wished she'd at least paused to pick up an umbrella. "The Duchess and I weren't expecting to see you again, Chloe," said Mr. Stink. His eyes twinkled at the surprise despite the rain. I'm sorry I ran off like that," said Chloe. "Don't worry, you're forgiven," he said. Chloe sat down next to him. She gave the Duchess a stroke and then noticed that the palm of her hand was black. She surreptitiously wiped it on her trousers. Then she shivered as a raindrop ran down the back of her neck. "Oh no, you're cold," said Mr. Stink. "Listen, shall we take shelter from the rain in the coffee shop?" Yeah, that's a good idea," said Chloe, not sure if taking someone quite so stinky into an enclosed space really was a good idea. As they walked into the town centre, the rain felt icy, almost becoming hail. When they arrived at the coffee shop, Chloe peered through the steamed up glass window. "I don't think there's anywhere to sit down," she said. Unfortunately, the coffee shop was full to brimming with Christmas shoppers, trying to avoid the cruel British weather. "Well, we can but try," said Mr. Stink, picking up the Duchess and attempting to conceal her under his tweed jacket. The tramp opened the door for Chloe and she squeezed herself inside. As Mr. Stink entered, the pleasing aroma of freshly brewed coffee keeled over and died. His own special smell replaced it. There was silence. And then panic. People started running towards the door, clutching serviettes to their mouths as makeshift gas masks. "Abandoned Starbucks! Abandoned Starbucks!" screamed the staff, and his colleagues immediately stopped making coffees and bagging muffins and ran for their lives. "Well, it seems to be thinning out a little," said Mr. Stink. Soon they were the only ones left in the whole shop. "Maybe smelling that bad has got its advantages," said Chloe. "If Mr. Stink's super smell could empty a coffee shop, well, what else could it do? Maybe he could clear the ice rink of skaters and she could have it all to herself. Or they could go to Alton Towers together and not have to queue for a single ride. Better still, she could take him and his smell into school one day. And if he was particularly stinky, the headmistress would have to send everyone home and she could have the day off." "Here, you take a seat here," said Mr. Stink. "Now, what would you like to drink?" I'll have the cappuccino, please," said Chloe, trying to sound grown up. I think I'll have one too." Mr. Stink shuffled behind the counter and started opening tins. "Righty-ho, 2 cappuccinos, coming right up." The machines hissed and spat for a few moments, and then Mr. Stink potted back over to the table with 2 mugs of a dark, unidentifiable liquid. On closer inspection, it appeared to be some kind of black slime. But Chloe was too well brought up to complain and pretend to sip it, whatever it was. She even managed to say, "Lovely." Mr. Stink stirred his solid liquid with a dainty little silver spoon he pulled from his breast pocket. Chloe stole a glance at it and noticed it was monogrammed. 3 little letters delicately engraved on the handle. She tried to get a better look, but he put it away quick so she couldn't see what the letters were. What could they mean? Or was it simply another item Mr. Stink had purloined during his career as a gentleman thief? "So, Miss Chloe," said Mr. Stink, breaking her train of thought, "it's the Christmas holidays, isn't it?" He took a sip of his coffee, holding his mug elegantly between 2 fingers. "Why aren't you at home decorating the tree with your family or wrapping presents?" "Well, I don't know how to explain. No one in Chloe's family was ever good at expressing their feelings. To her mother, feelings were at best an embarrassment and at worst a sign of weakness. Just take your time, young lady. Chloe took a deep breath. And it all came flooding out. What started off as a stream ended up as a river of emotion. She told him how her parents argued all the time and how once she was sitting on the stairs when she heard her mother shouting, "I'm the only staying with you for the sake of those girls." How her little sister made her life a misery. How nothing she ever did was good enough. How if she brought home some little bowl she'd made in pottery, her mother would shove it to the back of the cupboard so no one could see. However, if her little sister brought any piece of artwork home, however awful, it was always put pride of place behind bulletproof glass as if it was the Mona Lisa. Chloe told Mr. Stink how her mother was always trying to force her to lose weight. Up until recently, Mother had described her as having puppy fat, but once she turned 12, Mother really cruelly started calling her flab, or even worse, blubber. As if she was some species of whale. Perhaps Mother was trying to shame her into losing weight. In truth, it only made Chloe feel more miserable, and being miserable made her eat more. Filling herself up with chocolate and crisps and cake, it felt like being given a hug. She told Mr. Stink how she wished her dad would stand up to her mother sometimes, how she didn't find it easy to make friends as she was so shy, how she really only liked making up stories, but it made her mother so angry, and how Rosamond ensured that every day at school was utter misery. It was a long, long list, but Mr. Stink listened intently to everything. For someone who spent every day with only a little black dog for company, he was surprisingly full of wisdom. In fact, he seemed to relish the opportunity to listen, talk and help. People didn't really stop to talk to Mr. Stink, and he seemed rather pleased to be having a proper conversation for once. He told Chloe, "Tell your mother how you feel. I'm sure she loves you and would hate for you to be unhappy. And try to find something fun that you can do with your sister. And why not talk to your dad about how you feel?" Finally, Chloe told Mr. Stink how Mother had ripped her vampire story to shreds. She tried really, really hard not to cry. "Oh, that's terrible, child," said Mr. Stink. "You must have been devastated." "I hate her," said Chloe. "I hate my mother." "Oh, you should never say that," said Mr. Stink. "But I do." "You are very angry with her, of course, but she loves you, even if she finds it hard to show it." "Maybe," said Chloe. Having talked everything through, she felt a little calmer now. "Thanks so much for listening to me," she said. "I just hate to see a young girl like you looking so sad," said Mr. Stink. "I may be old, but I can remember what it was like to be young. I just hoped it helped a little." "You actually helped a lot." Mr. Stink smiled before letting the last sludge of his volcanic gloop go down his throat. "Delicious. Now, we better leave some money." He searched around in his pockets for some change. "Oh, bother. I can't read the board without my spectacles. I'll leave 6pence. That should be enough. And a 2pence tip. They'll be pleased with that. They can treat themselves to one of those newfangled video cassettes. Right. I think you better be heading home now, young lady." The rain had stopped. When they left the coffee shop, they sauntered down the road as cars hummed past. "Let's swap places," said Mr. Stink. "What? Why?" "Because a lady should always walk on the inside of the pavement and a gentleman on the outside." "Really?" said Chloe. "Why?" "Well," said Mr. Stink, "the outside is more dangerous because that's where the cars are. But I believe it was originally because in the olden days, people used to throw the contents of their chamber pots out of the windows and into the gutters. The person on the outside was more likely to get splattered." "What's a chamber pot?" said Chloe. "Well, I don't wish to be crude, but it's kind of a portable toilet. That is gross. Did people do that when you were a boy? Mr. Stink chuckled. No, that was a little before my time, child. In the 16th century, I think. Now, Miss Chloe, etiquette demands that we swap places. His old world gallantry was so charming it made Chloe smile, and they changed places. They strolled side by side, passing high street shop after high street shop, all trying to herald the approach of Christmas louder than the next. After a few moments, Chloe saw Rosamond walking towards them with a small flotilla of shopping bags. Can we cross the road, please, quickly? Said Chloe. Why, child? Whatever's the matter? It's that girl from school I told you about, Rosamond. The one who stuck the sign to your back. Yes, that's her. Well, you need to stand up to her, pronounced Mr. Stink. Let her be the one to cross the road. No, please don't say anything. Who's this? Your new boyfriend? Said Rosamond. It wasn't really a laugh. It was that kind of laugh that people do when they... Not the kind that people do when they really find something funny. That's a lovely sound. This was a cruel laugh. An ugly laugh. Chloe didn't say anything. She looked down. My daddy just gave me £500 to buy myself whatever I wanted for Christmas, said Rosamond. And I blew the lot at Topshop. Shame you're too fat to get into any of their clothes. Chloe merely sighed. She was used to being hounded by Rosamond. Why are you letting her talk to you like that? Said Mr. Stink. What's it to do with you, Grandad? Said Rosamond. Hanging around with smelly old tramps now, are you, Chloe? You are tragic. How long did it take you to find that sign on your back then? She didn't find it, said Mr. Stink. I did. And I didn't find it amusing. Didn't you? Said Rosamond. All the other girls found it really funny. Well, they're all as vile as you, said Mr. Stink. What? Said Rosamond. She wasn't used to being talked to like that. I said, then they are as vile as you, he repeated. You are a nasty little bully. Chloe looked anxious. She hated confrontation. To make matters worse, Rosamond took a pace forward and stood eye to eye with Mr. Stink. Say that to my face, you old stinker! For a moment, Mr. Stinks fell silent. Then he opened out his mouth and let the deepest, darkest burp. Rosamond's face turned green. It was as if a putrid tornado had engulfed her. It was the smell of coffee, sausages, rotten vegetables, recovered from bins, all rolled into one. Rosamond turned and ran, hurling down the high street in such a panic she dropped all the shopping bags on the way. That was so funny, said Chloe. Oh, I didn't mean to belch. Most impolite. It must have been that coffee repeating on me. Dear me. Now, next time, I want to see you stand up for yourself, Chloe. A bully can only make you feel bad about yourself if you let them. Okay, I'll try, said Chloe. So, see you tomorrow? If you really want to, he replied. I would love to. And I would really love to too, he said, his eyes twinkling and twinkling as the last golden glow of the sunlight splintered through the sky. At that moment, a 4x4 thundered past. Its giant tyres sloshed through a huge puddle by the bus stop, sending up a wave that soaked Mr. Stink from dirty head to dirty toe. Water dripping from his glasses, he gave Chloe a little bow. And that, he said, is why a gentleman always walks on the outside. At least it wasn't a chamber pot, said Chloe. See you tomorrow.